So, for welcome to everybody that's going to be viewing this video, this mastermind. Kathy and I do this weekly, where we try to bring some value of some things that we know about within the real estate community. For those that haven't, heard of Kathy or I, which seems to be a lot since we don't get tons of people that come to our masterminds.
We are
uh,
not famous.
no, we're not famous. So we did not take Sharon's actually we did take Sharon's advice, but just we don't. I guess I've always been told is I've got the face and the voice for radio, not for video. But anyways, we wanted to thank you for coming by and checking out our mastermind. Today's kind of a fun one, and Kathy and I feel kind of honored to be able to talk about this just because we run a real estate team, Kathy and I together, and we have two vastly different personalities. And that's why we thought this would be a great topic. And today's topic is going to be how to succeed in real estate, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. And I think what we should start with, Kathy, and you can tell me if you agree, is kind of defining what you think an introvert and an extrovert is. And how about, since I think we can both agree that you're the extrovert between you and I'm the introvert by miles. Why don't you tell me what you think an extrovert and an introvert looks like or is to you?
Well, you know I have a deep background in organizational development, and so all of these lovely uh, personality profiles, DISC, Myers-Briggs, and stuff are all very near and dear to my heart. But in my mind, there's a couple things. There's maybe two things that really, really um, differentiate introverts and extroverts. Extroverts, we energize around other people, talking, even on the phone, any way we connect, our energy goes up. Going to parties, going to anywhere, go to the grocery store. I told you yesterday, I took, and my daughter is mortified every time I talk to people in the grocery store, but that's what I do. You probably don't. um, and as an introvert, and I know this to be a fact with you, it's you have this little window, this battery that charges when you're on your own. And you charge up, you go like a bat out of hell for an hour, like you will today. And your battery stays pretty high until we turn off the webinar, and your battery is discharged quite a lot. So it draws energy from you to do this, to be around other people, to go to parties. You're always the first one to leave a party. Um, it's just yeah, you go because you know you're going to go and you know you're going to have fun, but you're always the first one to leave. So that's the biggest thing. This for me in as an
Would you
extrovert.
say the good analogy would be like a electric car battery? And so, these batteries that have these cars, electric cars have these long range batteries would be you. And then the old batteries that only lasted for a short mile would be me. Just I think that really is the key is that
Not so much the battery, it's where you get your energy from. I don't need to go to the charging station to be
it's
around
free
people.
charge off
I
people.
just charge from the people, right? Around being other around people. This is why you and I doing this is way fun for me. I think this is fun. Um, you charge on your own.
Well,
You're
but most
the
people would so I think the other part of that though too is that like I said, I think but for the longest time I thought I was an extrovert. So I think that's the interesting part as well, is that when it was actually pointed out to me by different people and stuff like that saying, Dave, you're an introvert. And then when I actually did some, and obviously I think we all grow as we age and we start figuring this stuff out, is what I came to realize was I have about a 2 hour battery life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for 2 hours, and
And
that's
you can do a
why
listing appointment.
a listing appointment. Yeah, for 2 hours I'm on. And I had that listing appointment the other day with some past clients, and we were talking about introversion, introverts and extroverts, and when I told them that I was an introvert, they said there's not a frickin' way in that you are an introvert. And but the thing is that again, for 2 hours, I can be on like anybody and be as much of an extrovert as anybody else. But I think the biggest difference, though, is when I go home, I curl up in a ball and turn the tigers on and don't talk to me. My battery life is used up. So,
Just like anything, politics, anything, right, left, conservative, liberal, there's spots in the middle, right? So there are times when I don't want to be an extrovert and I need to shut down. I can wear my own battery out too around other people. Um, I'm also one of the things that is a non-introvert extrovert thing for me is I don't talk about myself. Not you don't get into knowing me. I'm going to get into knowing you. You don't get into knowing me, which that's sort of an introvert trait. Um,
well,
Unlike
I
you
think
as an
another,
introvert, we do know a lot about you.
would you also feel it's true to say that an introvert's going to have a lot smaller group of people they would call friends and a much smaller circle. You know how what's that one show where the circle, you can be part of the circle. But I mean, I think introverts have a much smaller circle, and then the other part that I think introverts are, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they're much more sensitive about people that will drain their battery too. They cannot be around people that drain their battery.
It probably is more evident to you when people are draining your battery. It's not so much your circle of friends because as an extrovert, I may know 1,000 people. I may talk to 1,000 people. I can communicate, be a part of that a group of people, but I still only have a really close group of friends. And I think honestly, what that comes from is our age. We just have no tolerance for anybody that drains us at
No, we
all.
don't have tolerance for bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
we
I
have
think
no tolerance for that. I think that it dwindles. You move around, that kind of stuff. So there is one other thing that's inherently different about um, introverts and extroverts, and which is funny because as I was about to say it out loud, you do it, you just do it in a different way. Is how we process and think things through, how we make and build trust. Um, I'm probably going to build rapport a little bit more quickly than you because I just ask a lot of questions. You ask a lot of questions, but you stop. Well, sometimes you stop and listen, but you're a little bit different about building trust. I can build rapport. You're more about building trust. And that's something I have to work on. I work on positively. There's no one way or other that's right for how um, we work in life or in real estate that works better. But, and I think we probably talked about this a million times, the bonus of having both of us, right? I mean, sometimes things go wrong, you know. I get a little too people like I get a little too excited. I start talking, and people like just agree with me to agree with me. Not you, but that happens. You know, you know, you kind of are a little more float along, and you'll tell people straight up. So we have that combination that we can use,
well, we
and I
come to
don't
it
even
from
want to call it good cop, bad cop. It's just I deal with
different ways.
people
It's just
better.
different ways of approaching a subject. And
Yeah.
if you look at introverts and extroverts and stuff like that, how they kind of get to a point. And I think, but I think one of the things, and I'd like to get into how this kind of goes into real estate. But I think one of the things when I did some research, again, obviously my degree's in psychology as well, so I did some research 30 years ago when I was in college, or 40 years ago. It is 40 years ago now.
Yes.
But is that they felt that introverts have a tendency to overanalyze and do more fact building and things like that. And I know that's some place where
But
I
I
am
do.
not an introvert in that regard because
Nope.
I make instantaneous decisions, and I'm very succinct in my decisions, and I don't overthink things at all. Once I
It's
make a
like I said,
decision, it's
there's,
just, hey, I made a decision based on the best data in front of me. Whereas you, remember, I mean, you have to think about things, and it takes you a couple of days. Let me get back to you in a couple of days after I think about it.
well,
And
that's
so,
half of that. I'm going to give you half that. You've been thinking about it for 2 days before you tell me. So I just have to catch up. But yes,
it's not 2 days. It's like, it's one of those. I'm either in the
I
shower in the
process
car, and all of a
things.
sudden my
Yep.
mind goes 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So
By the time you told me, you've already worked through it. By the time I get to work through it, it seems longer. But I do. I do take a little different approach to making decisions. And I hate to say, I mean, that's just another part of the introvert extrovert personality spectrums. And I hate to use that word because it's become, something very different. Um, but I also think we're all somewhere along on the spectrum. Um,
well, I think the other part too is when you have an introvert and an extrovert together, and again, this is one of the things that we've always talked about, is that we've always had one common goal that always, as we say, we come to a problem from two different directions, but pretty much I don't know of any time that we haven't, by the time we talked about it, talked it through, that we haven't come to the same agreement. But we have a certain, a level that we have to do everything at. And I think that's never compromised, whether we look at it from an introvert or an extrovert situation.
for sure.
But well,
As
let,
far as dealing with clients and in real estate and stuff, there's a lot of differences in how we deal with it. Part of it, I will say, when you're on, you're a very strong extrovert. Your battery goes 100 miles an hour. And as a part of your personality, you are, there's a, no, a letter in the Myers-Briggs that would just say, and your D in your disc, you're the boss. That's it. I'm in charge. And
which you would not think with an introvert. So, like you said,
that,
I think there's a, like you said, there's a continuum
yeah,
between
but
extrovert
you're
to
not
introvert.
just your introvert. You're so many in disc and Myers-Briggs and anything. You've got different parts. So
And
your
I'm a
introversion,
99D for anyone
yeah,
that knows the disc profile, the
right,
DISC, is I'm a 99D. But for 2 hours, I'm a 99D. But no,
right,
most things in my life, I'm a 99D.
right. Oh yeah, you are a D. That's all there's to it. Just remember that the introversion extrovert, all it has to do really is your energy. Is when you fall off. So all those other things about um, in Myers-Briggs world, you would be a J. I am a P. I look at every option there is possible on and then make my decision. You're a J. I got the right one first time. Boom. It's called judgmental, but that's not really what it is. Um, that's how, I mean, my poor kid can't make a decision because I spent her whole life giving her every option under the sun because that's how I work.
Yep. And
And
I am
I
not
have
like
to
that.
make sure I covered them all. So, and you're not, but you have a firm grasp on the fact that you know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
I'm not as, I'm not going to say I'm not as confident as that. I just have to make sure I've checked them all first.
Yep.
So and sometimes that gets in the way of showing houses, talking to clients,
Well,
and narrowing them down.
let's do this. So much of real estate right now, and I think where the problem a lot of realtors have is in lead generation.
Mm.
So I'm gonna take you off again. Kathy and I never discussed prior to these
No,
masterminds, so we don't go off a script or anything like that. So I'm just kind of throwing stuff at her. But as
I kind of like
I
this. I
I
get to
like
talk.
it much more off the cuff. I don't like reading from anything. But so from lead generation, let's get into lead generation. So if I'm an extrovert, what do you believe are the, and again, I'm not saying myself, but if we have someone that's listening to this and they're an extrovert, what do you feel would be the best type of lead generation things, techniques that they could use to generate business?
If I'm an extrovert, I'm going to pick up the phone. I have no problems picking up the phone.
Do you have
Even
fear of rejection?
not so much anymore. I used to. I don't anymore.
You have no
It
problems
got to
cold
really
calling?
matter to me.
Do you
To
have problems cold calling?
no,
Okay.
I don't have. I don't have problems picking up the phone when somebody calls in. I make friends on the phone pretty fast. I firmly believe that phone conversations are the best way to get the right information across with the right intonation, asking questions, that kind of thing. No
Miscommunication.
misinterpretations
Mhm.
like you could
What's
in an email or
Yeah,
text.
the number one way, and I'm just going to put this because we talk about this all the time, is the number one thing you can do to get to miscommunicate is to send something, especially important, things like negotiating offers or your client stressed out, or something just came up in the transaction. The best way to miscommunicate and kind of escalate things is to respond or discuss it by text or by email. When you start getting into a situation where emotions are getting high and things like that, as we always talk about, I love to get face to face. So, I mean, for me, that's always the best. The second one would be a Zoom. Third one would be a phone call because then you can get intonations and things like that.
And the hard thing is, of course, you don't always have all those options available to you. If you have to set up a Zoom call, right? It's,
Right.
oh, let's get on a Zoom. You can FaceTime people. We do it a lot. But I have no time problems. And you know what I teach. You have a phone call, follow it up with an email to confirm what you talked about.
Yep.
It's a simple
Always leave a paper trail.
thing to do. Um, I know it must feel like people think I do a lot of work really fast, but no, you have to
So,
do it.
so you
So
said the first one. I'm going to say the second one that I think an extrovert has a big advantage over an introvert with, and that is that social aspect where you like going to parties and socializing. And the reason why I bring that up probably is because that's my biggest weakness, as an introvert, is I think the easiest business that you can have as a realtor is when you're going to social events, and especially I've always been a big believer that people want to do business that with people that have similar interests to them. So if you're attending something where like a humane society event and they're having a gala, we all love pets and dogs, and you're going to other places like that. But if you're able to talk to people and have meaningful conversations, that's going to be the type of building relationships and rapport that's going to get you future business. And we also talked about, doing like attraction type things. What's and we talk about this openly. My biggest problem as an introvert is I don't go to these, Michigan, the
our
once a
stuff.
year. What are those called?
Uh, boom, boom. what's it called?
Conventions.
Convention.
So they have like a 1 year
If you can
convention
tell
and
how
things
many
like
we go
that.
to.
Yeah, so because I'll go and I'll kind of talk to people for a little bit, and then I'll be like, "Oh my God, I gotta go up to the hotel room and take a nap." Whereas you'll go to one of those and you'll be on fire the whole time, and that's, I think, to me, don't you agree that that's an advantage for an extrovert over an introvert?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I kind of use to my advantage at things like that is that I mean, and it's everybody's advantage. If you do a lot of business and you're well known in your area and you're in, like, say, the Michigan Association of Realtors, they know me, so I don't even, like, I can go up and hug everybody and make a connection. You're gonna step back and wait and check it
I'll be
out,
observing everything.
and then you'll wade in eventually. So um, it's interesting when it comes to that. But the one thing I was talking about with showings, it's that's really different from you and I is when you're with people and you've when you're just because you got to showing a house doesn't mean that person's going to be your client, sign an EBA, work with you for life just because you're showing them a house. The whole time you're showing house, you're still being interviewed, right? Especially now, we can use touring agreements. We don't have to have EBAs to go show a house. You're still being interviewed and you're still interviewing your client. You're going to probably let them walk through the house. And when they get to the end, ask them some questions. I, on the other hand, will go, "Oh my gosh, look at that kitchen counter. That's amazing." And you kind of point things out like that more often when you're in a listing appointment. You'll make sure that your listing people know that you love their house. But there's different ways, and like I said, you're still being interviewed, so those people still get to make a decision if they want to work with the yakkadoodle like me or the more thoughtful, get to the end and say, "What did you think as you walked in
But
there?"
but part of quote unquote sales, which I hate to use the term sales, as you know, because I don't believe what I do is sales, but I think what it is though, it's also adapting yourself to who the person is that you're showing the house to. And I think part of being a realtor, especially a real estate professional, is you have to be kind of a chameleon, right? So if
Yeah.
you've got you sometimes you've got to match energy. So if you've got someone that's an extrovert, sometimes you have to match them. So because I'm starting to work with more buyers, I'm back into what you're speaking with, and so when I have a past client, how I act with a past client as opposed to someone that's a new person that doesn't know me, I don't know them, I would say
Right.
you're exactly right. But for past clients, I kind of say, hey, these, just I point out different things, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm just going to point out some th certain things that from a resale standpoint. You want to look at this, I'm just gonna so like with myself, the first thing where's the first place that Dave wants to go in a house when he's showing it?
Kitchen.
No, I want to go to the basement because to
Oh,
me,
that's no
all the
fun.
money stuff is in the basement. Your furnace, your electrical panel, the foundation, all those kind of things because you know the kitchen and the paint and the carpet and all that kind of stuff, that's all stuff that you can change. And so, but that was something that took me a long time to because I'm more cut to the chase. And I don't have that. But no,
I've
I
been showing too much new construction.
maybe that's what it is too. But the other part I want to point out real quick, and again, hopefully I'm not off topic on this, is I think personality trait of being an introvert and extrovert kind of plays into whether you will be a better listing agent or a better buyer's agent eventually. And I will tell you from firsthand knowledge. So when I first got in the business, I was primarily working with buyers. And those were back in the days when everyone drove in your car. So
Oh
you couldn't
God.
even get away. So you had them in your car, And I would be with people 6 hours a day. We had the map out with the highlighters and all this kind of stuff because we didn't have all the technological stuff. And I can tell you by the time I was done, I was a whipped puppy, meaning I went home and crashed and like I could never do this again. It literally would take me 2 or 3 days to recover from going out and showing a buyer a house for six or buyers' houses for 6 or 7 hours. I did it and I did it pretty well. But the thing was, is it drained my batteries and made me ineffective for a couple days afterwards. Listings, you go in and you are on for 2 hours and I mean, and you know myself, my biggest fear in life is appearing ignorant. So I was always prepared, even when I first got in the business. Again, I wasn't asked how long I'd been in the business. Hell, I'd been in the business, I think it was 5 years. Was the first time that I've ever was asked, how long you been doing this? Because I never had that because I was always prepared. But for listing, I could prepare and do all that stuff by myself, no one else around me,
Prefer it.
and I'm very intense. Where if you come in and try to talk to me when I'm putting the numbers together, I don't know you exist. So I can do all that on my time, so that doesn't drain my battery with all the prep time. That actually gets my battery up probably. But then when I go for that appointment, for pretty much the most that you have in a listing appointment for is about 2 hours.
Hmm.
And then when I'm driving away, I'm like, ugh. And so that's took me a long time to figure out that I have this battery, but my personality trait is much more beneficial toward being a listing agent than toward being a buyer's agent. And I don't know if you feel the same way or tell me what your thoughts are on that.
I I don't think I think as an in terms of being an extrovert, I'd still rather be a listing agent no matter what, because
True.
nobody wants to do 6 hours in the car on a hot summer day and go into 9 houses. Right. I mean, that's tough. It's fun. I last summer I did that with three different clients and one of them I had their, 95-year-old grandfather in the car with me too. He was a ride. He made it fun. And it is exhausting even for an extrovert. We had a lot of fun, but that's still tough to do. Um, yeah, I think you can pull it off either way. One of the biggest pieces of any personality trait, whether you're an extrovert, introvert, high D, high C. I'm one of those weird, not super high D, but like 70 D and 70 I, which makes me probably, I don't know, unusual. I only know one other person that's like that, and she's a hotshot team leader, so it's pretty cool. Is that all of your personality traits go into everything you do? You can't separate them, but knowing what you do, how you react, is probably the most important thing. So for me, if I ask a lot of questions, I want to know everything about them, ask a ton of questions, and then I start, oh, if it gets quiet, I got to start asking more questions. Can't get quiet. Well, that's crazy. And they don't really want to know anything about me, but we like to talk about ourselves to some degree, or, oh, yeah, my house on the lake is like this too. At least so, you can be, you know, a little interested. But eventually you get to the spot where it's like, for God's sakes, will you just be quiet for a minute? And that's one of the things I know I have to do. I have to stop and make sure I'm listening more than I'm talking.
And I,
So
I, I think that actually will go both ways from
that
both being
goes
an introvert and
everywhere.
extrovert, because I know my number one fault is the fact that, how we always say God gave us two ears and one mouth so that we listen twice as much as we talk. But the biggest thing is listening to understand rather than listening to respond.
Oh, I taught you that.
But I've seen it in a bunch of different
It's
things,
true.
and every time
It's
it
very true.
hurts me every time I hear it because I start working on it and I start, but it's one of those things where I know the answer, I got blurt it out and stuff like that. And it's like, that doesn't matter at all. Let people
That
talk.
that
And
does not come from your introvertedness.
no, no,
That
I,
comes from your know-it-allness.
yes, yes.
Which
But
is fine. I mean, it is what it is. Like,
But
but you're right.
let's
You've got to
what
stop.
I want to get back to though is so
Okay.
we got people here that want to figure out. So if I'm an extrovert, or let me take over. So if I'm an introvert,
Shocking.
okay,
Yep.
if I'm an introvert, what do you think? We've got people that are listening to this video or this mastermind, and they're an introvert. What do you feel would be the best lead gen techniques that they could use to get business? And the first one
Well,
I'm just going to say is the one thing an introvert isn't going to like to do. What's my number one thing I don't like to do?
call, call.
Cold call.
So for an introvert, in my mind, my opinion, um, social media. If you're comfortable doing social media, lots of people are are introverts and are great on social media. It doesn't mean that they can't talk to people. It just means they got a limited window of time they can be on, right?
Right. Yep.
Social media is great. Honestly, there's the one guy that I follow and he does the best stories, but he's just standing on his porch. There he's not even really talking. They're running his words over him. So he can do a lot of that. And you can develop all your content on your own and then use your power hours, where you're charged up, where you've got stuff for the things you need to do that are interactive. So
So it,
social media, if that's your thing, granted, these days it's harder and harder to become famous as a social media star, influencer, whatever. You've got to be there. So it's a good way for you to use your downtime. Push that.
so
The other thing, as
oh,
far as
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
lead generation is every CRM, everything has AI. Um, get that process working where you've got action plans and things that click on and off and respond, so you don't have to do the cold calls. But be prepared in your power hours to do the follow up and respond to those people. Um, and take that. Those would be, I think, some of the top things.
So
Um,
what
you
I
can
did is,
also do webinars
yeah, I
with.
did a search. I did a search for the top lead gen techniques, and I obviously I ran through. I use Gemini. Anyways, and the first one that they said was inbound content marketing, which is exactly what you're talking about. Doing social media things, video walkthroughs, SEO optimization. The second one was targeted digital advertising, which is Google ads, social media ads, lead magnets, which is what you're talking about. And the third one was high value email newsletters. So doing email campaigns and basically it's outgoing content, but you're not, I mean, the other part that's cool about that is you can hit a large amount of people at very little cost in that regard. But the fourth one, um, and I'm surprised you didn't mention this, it is one of our number one lead generation techniques. Guess what it is?
Geographical farming.
Geofarming. Yeah. So the reason why we like them, we're about ready to send out just listed postcards and things like that, is the fact that you can hit a large geographical location or group of people. The hard part though is it's expensive. Direct mail is expensive. But one of the funny things that's is I joke about what my number one goal has been for the past 33 years. And it's the number one goal that any introvert would love to be able to do. But I think it's tough for most introverts that are more newer agents to do, as opposed to we've been in the business for eternity. But it's my philosophy has always been have them call you. And that's, if there's any coaches or trainers or things like that view this, they're going to go, "Oh my God, that's so ridiculous! And how could you even say something like that?" Well, as all
They're fooling themselves
what's my
because they
standard
want all their
response? What's my standard response? Well, like I said, as I put into, I mean, is 5,600 homes sold success or not? I don't know. But we've cold called maybe twice in our lives, but most of the stuff that we're talking about is stuff that we do. And then the other part that's interesting is they say that open houses are more of an extrovert um, uh, something an extrovert would do. And I kind of disagree with that too, because again, shorter battery life, so a 2 hour open house. But what I think an introvert does more so than an extrovert is I think introverts try to develop deeper conversations and try to establish the rapport and get credibility and validity a lot more quickly than an extrovert, because I think a lot of extrovert, it's a lot of superficial, glassy type stuff where they're just talking and doing more of a general. Whereas I think myself, I agree that I don't, I mean, I kind of cut to the chase and start asking them questions uh, that are specific, kind of like, so what about what made you come see the condo today? Is the fact that it's 2 bedrooms a good thing or a bad thing? But the other part that I do is before they even walk in the door, like if they drive up in a Lincoln LS or something like that, and I'll say, "Oh my God, you got the Lincoln LS. I mean, it has 2000. Yeah. Is it the automatic or the stick shift?" And they'll say, everyone they're going to say is automatic. I said, "Yeah, I had the 5 speed manual, first manual transmission since the 1972 Metropolitan. But is it the 6 cylinder or the 4 cylinder? Oh, I really wanted the 6 cylinder, but no, you needed better gas mileage." And then we'll talk about all that kind of stuff before they even walk in the door. So I'm building rapport about stuff other than real estate. But then I'll start asking, and it's almost like they give me permission because we start bonding a little bit to ask those questions about what they're looking for. But
I mean, that's definitely. I mean, it's something I mentioned, right? You're just going to build a different type of rapport. It's going to be more through trust, like things, stuff like that, as opposed to conversation. One of the other things that an introvert will do, I honestly think, and I don't know that there's any scientific backing to this, but coming from the OD world, is that you're just better at knowing intrinsically how to keep the client on the topic you're talking about.
engaged. Yep.
Well, you can be engaged, but you're going to stay on topic. You're going to stay centered on them, on what's going on, instead of you might connect over the car, but the rest of it is about why are you here?
Yep.
Where an extrovert may go off
On tangents.
on tangents. No, I never do that.
No, you
Um,
do all the time.
that's also because I'm ADD, which is 99% of realtors also. Um, but it it's just a different connection level. Um, I probably have a better sense of reading energy and cues and stuff. You're gonna notice the small, like they looked at that thing twice. I'm gonna talk to them about that. Or they've mentioned something about what they want to get out of their listing more than one time. You're going to catch on that faster than I am because I'm going to be too busy having a good time with Mrs. Seller. Um, So
I think an
there's
introvert,
pitfalls and there are pitfalls and blind spots for both sides.
I think an introvert reads people better than an extrovert, meaning the subtle and again, I that may not be an introvert and extrovert thing. That may be coming from being one of 12 children and
Yes.
then selling shoes to get through college and just reading body language and things like that. But I believe an introvert is more dialed into subtle nuances. And because that's one of the reasons why I also like being in front of people is you can get a real good sense of this person's thinking, oh my God, this guy's a cocky prick, excuse my language,
That's
or they're engaged with you, and then a lot of that's eye contact and things like that. You can get a really good sense of if they're interested in what you have to say, or they're just like, I'm waiting for this thing to be over. And then if that's the case, then you can try a different approach, et cetera. But whereas I think sometimes an extrovert's more, they're not glued in as much. Well, they're not as tuned in to what's going on. But correct
I
me if I'm
think
wrong.
that's probably a part. Remember that your introversion and extroversion is more about um,
Energy.
your energy. So if you want to be dialed in, because you only have this little battery life, I got to get this done fast. I don't know if that's true or not. It just sounds like a good idea. I mean, I can talk and go and show houses and have a ball. Um, and remember that so the 95-year-old grandfather loves almond croissants and sent him some for his 95th birthday, and it cements things just because we talked about a lot of weird stuff. You're probably more focused because your battery life is going toot 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 down. So I don't know if that's true, but like I said, there's we're all on the spectrum somewhere. We have other personality traits that affect us. Um, and there's definitely pitfalls and blind spots, which we talked about last week, a lot of pitfalls. Um, so if you're thoughtful and quiet, does that come across as I'm not as interested? Where if I'm talking more than I'm listening, I'm not as interested in them. I'm just interested in me. So we've got to know what you are and how you do it. So, and
Let's
read your person.
I'm gonna turn this on. I don't know why this thing's ringing, but let's end on one last thought. So we've always, tell me if you agree with me, we've always thought the number one lead generation technique for realtors is going through your database and your center of influence, your C of I or sphere of influence. Sometimes people call it SOI. So we've got this sphere of influence. We've got this, these all these people that we've known in the past. We've done business with them, and as we've always said, why would you want to spend all this money on all this new lead generation with people that you've never met when you've got this whole database of people that you've already done business with? They know and like you. They trust you. You have validity with them. And it's the numbers that just blow my mind that when they talk to somebody after they've just done a transaction with the realtor, they ask them, what's the chance? I mean, would you work with this person again? Right after the transaction. And 72% of all people polled were 100% I would use this agent again. But the actual numbers are the number of people that use their past agent is 13%. So to me, there's a big opportunity there. So what I want to ask you is, so the center of influence, I think there's different ways that an extrovert or an introvert is going to, reach out to their database. So talk to me about how an extrovert would reach out to their database, or client event parties, things like that. How would an extrovert do that as opposed to an introvert?
I know you think I'm going to say we want to have, I do not. I am probably the worst realtor to ask about client event parties. I, not because I don't like to have parties, I love to have parties, but I don't want to call a bunch of people that, why do they want to come talk to me today? They might not. If I give them something fun to do, that's great. That is my unextroverted. I hate client parties. Normally, I don't mind talking to a bunch of people going to a party. Um, I'd rather deal with people, a group of people, even a group, or I'm not going to say one because, but I'd like to go out to lunch with just one person. But um, most extroverts, and I'm not even going to call it. I don't think that's it. I don't think it's extroversion. I think it's um, who you want to be around.
I
But
think if we get back to energy though, is that you're going to have the energy to be around, let's say it's 2 or 300 people.
yeah,
And so to me, an introvert would never put themselves in that position.
well, a
And
lot of
I'm
them
and I'm
do, but
leading
you
and
know
I'm
what
leading
they
up
do
to how
now?
an introvert would do it too. So
And well, I know how you're going to do it. I wouldn't. You know what I'm thinking? My angst about client parties is who in this company plans client parties? Me. I hate planning client parties.
well, I
Maybe
think the
that's why I
bigger
don't like it. I'll
well,
go if somebody else plans it.
I
I'll go if
think
somebody.
I think the problem from an introvert standpoint is, again, first of all, I think introverts have more of a fear of rejection than extroverts. And I think if you invited 500 people and only 30 showed up or 20 showed up or 10 showed up, I think that would be a
Mortified.
problem.
Yes.
But then, this is where, the one thing that, and again, I think I glean on to Sharon's statement at the One
Mhm.
Rise because it fits, it fits what I
Because
like.
it's you.
Why I've never had
He
a
must
coach
be. He
why I've
must
never
be
had a coach
brilliant.
or a trainer is if someone has a thought that's different than mine. But Sharon basically said, and I believe it's 100% true, is that if you go through your database of the people that refer you business, you're going to find that it's the same 10 people that are referring you majority of your business. And then what we've talked about is I believe introverts are better one-on-one or in small groups, but again, one-on-one. But the other part is that I would much rather take those clients for one-on-one lunch or dinner or something like that. Um, and just to say, hey, thank you so much for all that you do. Hey, I appreciate you. I don't want to just, I don't want you to feel taken for granted. And, obviously I don't say that, but, in words and actions, I try to make that. And because you want them to know that we appreciate it, we see it, we acknowledge it, and make them feel special. And that's definitely the way that I prefer to handle the sphere of influence. And then the other thing that I think is really key for us is why we keep sponsoring Pinckney Players every year is if we're gonna if I think one of the things we as a group is that anytime we send something out or call or something like that, we need to provide or offer something of value. And so rather than asking for business and this, that, and the other thing, what I love when we do like the Pinckney Players tickets is we're saying, hey, thank you for being a great, thank you for, being a client of DMA or just, or being a friend of DMA. And, here's some free tickets. So who would like some free tickets? Where we're creating a win-win-win where we're keeping in contact with our clients. They can go out for a nice play and dinner on DMA. Pinckney Players gets people coming to their play, and it's also getting them advertisement because we'll also share a lot of the events and everything. So that to me it comes from the introvert's guide to hitting your center of influence.
Well, I have to say, even as an extrovert, um, I don't, and again, this may be our age. I don't enjoy. Think about the bride at the wedding that gets 6 seconds with every person she invited. except maybe, her wedding party. That's not fun. Not fun. And so I, as an extrovert, am thrilled that client parties like that, they're pretty much gone. I don't see anybody do them. I'll see somebody fills up a movie theater, but that's more like what we're doing with Painty Players. You're not forcing those people to stand there and talk to you for 2 hours. You're letting them go watch a cool movie. That works
Right.
for me. Those kind of things are a whole lot easier for everybody. It's just our minds go 100 miles an hour. Everybody's got stuff to do. If you want to ask me to do something and give me a reason to remember you and that, send me tickets to the play. Invite me to a movie. Let's have a golf outing, something like that. That's fun. Um, don't make me stand in a room with a bunch of people I don't know just
Right.
because you sold them a house and you sold me a house. And that's the only thing we have in common. So
Agree.
I just think I'm thrilled that everybody gives away pies. Now it's so much better because they come up one at a time, Dave. You don't get to 300 people at one time. You give a pie to one person. So, but I never thought that client parties were of great value. They just were
And
like,
there's people
see,
that
I'm a
get
big
most of their
shot.
business, and there's people that get majority of their business from stuff like that. So that's the great thing
Are
about
there
real estate.
still?
Oh
Yuck.
yeah. I'm not going to
Even
name
Martin
names on
doesn't throw
this, but
parties.
but the thing is that that's one of the cool parts about a real estate career is there's a million ways to be successful at this business. And as we've always said, is find something that you enjoy doing and just master that. And I think if you find one or two techniques that work for you and your personality, which that's really what this is more of a personality trait, is find one thing, master it, find a second one, master it. If you can find two things that you can master over 30 years, you can build a business as large as you want. But it always clients always have to come first, and you have to always want to, like as we've always said, is uh, under promise, over deliver. And if you can do those, it doesn't take much to stand out in real estate. But just by doing that and being a real estate professional, you'll
Yep.
stand out. And we talk about that often. So, Lee, can you in the chat real quick just leave our
Oh, yeah.
addresses, and then what I'd like to do is that if anyone is reaching out or watching this video, and you have questions about lead generation techniques, and doesn't even have to be about you're an introvert or an extrovert. But if there's something that piqued your interest in our video and you have a question and want to follow up, Kathy's going to leave our email addresses here. We'll get back to you instantaneously most of the time. So if you have questions at all, feel free to reach out. Again, we are one reel and we are all here to help each other. It's a
Yep.
difficult career that it's a thankless job a lot of times. And so we are here to facilitate your business. Any last words,
Just like
Kathy?
any job, it can be thankless, but those highs and lows, you have them in everything. But the highs are so cool in this industry.
You are helping people with the largest for most people, it's the largest financial investment they will ever have. And they're
Well, I'm
entrusting
finding
that
out
with you
the financial investment is a big deal. The emotional investment in your home
just as big.
is huge in anybody's home.
Yep.
Um, don't be fooled that you do really have to work. It's not. Uh, I'm just going to go show a house, sell a house, show a house, sell a house. There's work involved, and there's thought and preparation. Lots of preparation. So do
Well, yeah,
that do that work.
if we actually pulled back the curtain of all the things that happen in a real estate transaction, our clients don't see 90% of it. And There's
Nor do we
probably
want them to.
10 different times when that deal could have gone off the rails. And we, because of experience and expertise, are able to keep it on the tracks. And a lot of the times people don't see that. And so you hear a lot of stuff about, realtors are going to go the way of,
And we
Blockbuster
get
and things
paid
like
too
that.
much.
Yeah, we get paid too much. But yeah, it's when you actually can close a property, but they don't talk about the properties where you spent $3,000 marketing it and it doesn't sell or doesn't close, or the buyer does something stupid and it doesn't close. So, but it's I can't think of another job, or I shouldn't say it's a job because this is a business. I can't think of another business I would rather be in, and I would not want to go get a real job. So, yeah. All right, everybody.
Real to come into the
Thanks for
window.
coming in, and
Yep.
watch for our next video. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Make sure you stop that push stop on the recording. Bye.